Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today for Thursday, January 15th. It's Alexis Garcia here, and the major indexes opened strong thanks to some nice earnings from Taiwan Semi and some of the banking names out there. Small caps led the day, but the market faded off those highs by the close. So, here with me to help break down everything you need to know about today's trading action is IBD news editor Ed Carson. So, Ed, we were talking about before the show how ready we are for a 3-day weekend. It seems maybe the market is too, judging by some of the late selling action today.
Yeah, the major indexes showed a little bit sort of like my energy levels as the afternoon wears on. But I want to take a look at a few names. One, Advanced Micro Devices, AMD, as well as Dycom and Primoris.
All right, well, we'll get to those names. Let's just quickly round up the major indexes. The S&P 500 finishing the day up 0.2%. The Dow up 0.5%. The Nasdaq up about thirds of a percent, and small caps again leading the day up almost 1% today. So, Ed, I'm going to go ahead and get our trusty charts going here. Yeah, what are you noticing about today's market action? It seems like we've really been in a space where we're just kind of off highs, chugging along. You can see the S&P 500 here, again, fading off those early gains, but still in a pretty good position here.
Yeah, I mean, overall, stepping back, the market is near record highs. It was disappointing, though, because there were a lot of positive catalysts.
Mhm.
Taiwan Semiconductor, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, BlackRock. So really lifting, and there was a lot of lift, especially early on from some of those things, like especially Taiwan Semi, the broader chip sector, huge gains along there. And yet other areas, other parts of this tech sector, some healthcare, some other areas were just faded off. I mean, and so we're weak or race gains. So that's just disappointing. Small caps continue to be doing very well. Chips continue to do well, which we'll look at. I mean, everything outside of it's not chips, but when you strip out some of the mega caps and some of the software names that have been weak, you look at these equal weight ETFs, they're still doing pretty well. But yeah, it was just a disappointing session from where we started.
Yeah, I'm still on small caps here, Ed, and it seems like, after being kind of stuck around this 250 level, really moving out and now trying to establish above the 260 level here for the Russell 2000. We can briefly take a look at the NASDAQ composite before we move on. But again, a similar action here. You can see the S&P 500, the Dow, all near highs. The Nasdaq has sort of lagged a little bit, but again, uh, an update still, but looks like it's inching ever so much closer to that 21-day line.
Yeah, it would have been nice to have seen this get this up. The Nasdaq has been consolidating for quite a while. All the other indexes have been hitting highs here and there. Would have been nice to get that up there. Obviously, it's still holding above the 50-day line, and it would just take one good day to maybe get above short-term highs, maybe one more after that to get to all-time highs. So it's really close to that. It just, there was really good news today, and the fact that's the only thing is that the market couldn't hold it particularly well, despite what seemed like just unambiguously good news.
You talked about some of the equal weighted ETFs. Let's just check in on RSP. That's the S&P 500 equal weighted ETF. Again, this one continuing to move into high ground here, flirting with that 200 level, Ed. We can also just look at QQEW quickly. That's the NASDAQ 100. A gain here of about a tenth of a percent, but we can see tech not really doing as well, reversing again off these highs and still below the 50-day line.
Yeah, and could we switch over to QQQE because that one actually is a better representation. We just realized recently about how about that. I should have known it earlier. That rose. I mean, that's close to record high. So that's still doing better than some of those mega caps, some of those names. I just was disappointing. But that one, we'd like to see the NASDAQ more in that position, get up toward those highs. But yeah, just sort of some weakness. It's more underlying. There's definitely divergence within tech and within the market.
All right, how about we look at some of the bank ETFs? As you mentioned, we have a Goldman Sachs earnings out today. KBWB, that's the Invesco Bank ETF, was up 1.6%. Nice move here above the 21-day line. We can also just take a look at XLF. That's the Financial Select Spider ETF. A gain of about 0.4% today, again continuing to move upward after a bounce above the 50-day line
Yeah. So
yesterday. So yeah, thoughts here.
yeah, the banks are doing better because obviously there was a few names that did well, especially Goldman. Some of those other names like credit cards, those are continuing to struggle or have issues there. So that's why XLF wasn't, faded a lot more. Whereas Goldman and some of the big banks, they held their gains. I mean, there wasn't any. They just held it. So this was definitely an area of strength.
All right, well, we talked about chips with Taiwan Semi, but we can take a look at SMH. Again, moving into high ground here. Peaked above this 400 level, but again, finishing off highs, but still a nice gain of 2.1% today.
Yeah, they're definitely faded off highs, but it's hard to get too upset about a 2.1% gain. So the market pulled it down, but it was still a strong gain. Chips are definitely one of the strongest parts of tech.
And we can take a look at IGV because when we talk about software, not one of the strongest areas right now, continuing to lag, down 1.3% here and falling below the 100 price level.
Really ugly week, really ugly last few months. It just hasn't been good at all. So this was one of the areas of weakness, one of the reasons why the market couldn't hold.
All right, how about we just round this out with a look at ARK-K, just get a sense of where some of these growth speculative names are going. This one down 1.6% today, but still holding above the key moving averages.
Still above the moving averages. A lot of crypto plays were weak today. I mean, there were some things going on, stalled legislation, and ARK owns a fair amount of crypto names, and there's some other things that faded off highs, but I think that was the big weakness for our ARKK.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and look at some individual stocks. You mentioned AMD, a gain here of 1.9%. But again, we can see those gains fading, closing at the lower part of the trading range. But a nice follow up day, Ed, after breaking back above the 50-day line yesterday.
Yeah, this is the difference where you look between daily and weekly. On a daily, this was disappointing because it jumped up, like it was up really strongly. It was clearly above the 50 line. It's still clearly above the 50 line, but it was the decisive move of there. Got above the short-term highs, which I think you could have used as an early entry into this. So a lot of great things, but then it came off. So that was disappointing because probably some people bought that, and that they could be down 3 or 4%. On a weekly, looks a lot better because it's been a strong week. It's in the upper, I don't know, 20-25% of the 73%. So it's pretty high in the range, 12% gain. So you look at that and go, that's a good week. I mean, yeah, you'd like to be at highs, but so a little different perspective there. I think that if it gets back above the short-term highs, then it could be buyable. It is disappointing to see today's move, but it really has been a strong week for this name. And
So we're
Taiwan
looking
Semi
at
makes AMD chips, which is a big reason why AMD and a lot of these names were up.
so we're looking at a close on above around the 234 level as a potentially actionable area.
Yeah, I think that would be probably where you'd want to see that. Would probably be an early entry for that name.
All right. How about we hop on over to DY? That's Dycom Industries, a gain of 3.3% today, Ed. And again, another one kind of moving above some of these short-term levels here around the 366 level.
Yeah, so it didn't quite close above that, though. So it wasn't that. It is a flat base on a weekly chart. So that is in a traditional buy point. You can see that it's again strong week. So you can't, a relative strength line at a new high, at least some point today. I think it may have closed off of that. So you could have bought, so that's a real positive. Tight action in there in the prior weeks. If you go back to a daily, uh, there were some short-term levels that it's been clearing this week, just not right there, but just in the last couple of weeks, it sort of got above that area. So I think people could have used that as an early entry, and it's still above that. So again, from the perspective of a weekly, this has been a strong move, and it did hold on to most of its gains. It just didn't quite close in the buy zone. Uh, Pretty solid numbers here. This is one of these things that's getting more into AI infrastructure. So that's been a booming area. This was a stock of the day earlier in the week. AMD was our stock of the day today. Dycom was, I believe, yesterday. And then our third stock was our stock of the day on Monday,
Yeah,
before I forget.
let's head over there to Prim. That's Primoris Services. A gain of 7% today. Ed, it had was flirting with this 138.52 buy point, but a nice move today. Just clear out of the buy zone.
Yeah, and there were opportunities. It didn't just jump up immediately. There were opportunities to get into this. This one does builds and maintains power plants, refineries, some of the things in the power plant area, and some of those things is more like definitely AI adjacent. But refiners are doing pretty well too right now. So this is just acting well here. Accelerating revenue growth the last few quarters. Earnings growth has slowed, but to 54%. It's hard to get too upset about that. So just a strong name here in the heavy construction field, which has been, this kind of one of these AI winners for a while now.
All right, Ed. Well, that wraps it up today. Thank you so much for your insights today. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Alexis.
All right. Well, again, that's it for this edition of Stock Market Today. If you want more market analysis, be sure to tune in tomorrow morning, starting with IBD Live. You can head on over to investors.com/IBD Live for all the details there. I pretty sure tomorrow's special guest is Dan Fitzpatrick. So it should be a great show. And thank you all so much for watching. And we'll see you right back here after the close.